I am Carol Harrison. On a spring morning in the suburbs of Boston, I was savoring my morning coffee while gazing at the flowers in the garden through the window. Even at 62, the morning silence remains my daily source of energy. Grandma, can we go to the park today? Suddenly, my grandson Aiden came running down the stairs. His blue eyes were shining with excitement. Of course, Aiden. But first, we need to have a good breakfast. Aiden is a remarkably intelligent and kind child for his 8 years. Like my son Mark and his wife Sarah, he has a strong intellectual curiosity. As I was preparing to go to the park with Aiden after breakfast, I heard the front door open. Hey, Mark. About Aiden's cram school. Sarah, enough about that. Now is not the time. I could hear Mark and Sarah's voices. They've been going through divorce proceedings recently and are in fierce conflict over Aiden's custody. My heart aches, but I must maintain composure in front of Aiden. Good morning, you two, I called out cheerfully. Oh, good morning, Mom, Sarah hurriedly put on a smile. Mom, thanks for looking after Aiden today, Mark said with a tired expression. The tension between the two was almost palpable. Dad, Mom, I'm going to the park with Grandma. Aiden shouted energetically. Be careful, Aiden, Sarah smiled gently. Have fun, Mark also showed a smile. When we arrived at the park, Aiden immediately ran towards the playground equipment. The spring sunlight made his blonde hair shine. Aiden, don't go too far, I called out as I sat on a bench. Okay, I got it. He turned back and waved. I opened the book I had brought and enjoyed reading while occasionally checking on Aiden. The laughter of other children echoed around us. It was a peaceful Saturday afternoon. Grandma, can you push me on the swing? Aiden came running over. Of course, dear. We played on the swing and then built a castle in the sandbox. We were having so much fun that we lost track of time. I'm a bit thirsty. I'll go buy some juice, so wait here, okay? Okay, got it. While I was heading to the vending machine, Aiden continued playing in the sandbox. It was only a matter of minutes. When I returned, Aiden was no longer in the sandbox. Aiden? Aiden, where are you? I looked around, but he was nowhere to be seen. My heart started racing. Aiden! I desperately searched the entire park. Other parents helped too, but Aiden couldn't be found. Fear enveloped me. With trembling hands, I took out my cell phone and called Mark. Mark, Aiden. I can't find Aiden anywhere. At that moment, my world began to crumble. When Mark arrived at the park, I was sitting on a bench with my face in my hands. I could hear his footsteps approaching. Mom! Mark's voice had an urgency I'd never heard before. Where's Aiden? I explained the situation through tears. Mark's expression darkened. Have you called the police? Yes, Before I could finish, we heard police sirens. 2 patrol cars arrived at the park entrance, and uniformed officers got out. are you Mrs. Harrison? One officer approached us. Please tell us the details of the situation. As we were explaining to the officer, Sarah arrived, out of breath. Aiden. Where's Aiden? Her voice was trembling. Mark briefly explained the situation to her. Sarah glanced at me with what seemed like an accusing look for a moment. But that expression quickly vanished, replaced by one of determination. Let's search. He must be nearby. The police moved swiftly. They searched the park, questioned nearby residents, and checked security cameras. We also split up, calling Aiden's name while searching the entire park. As time passed, the sun began to set. Fatigue was evident on Mark's face, but he continued the search without rest. Sarah, who had been desperately searching at first, gradually began to slow down. Sarah, are you all right? When I called out to her, she turned around, looking slightly startled. Huh? Oh, yes, just a bit tired. At that moment, I noticed a strange light in her eyes. But there was no time to dwell on it. As night fell, the police set up a search headquarters. We answered questions and provided photos of Aiden. One of the investigators approached us. Mr. and Mrs. Harrison, is there anyone who might hold a grudge against your child? Mark shook his head. No, Aiden is loved by everyone. I understand you're going through divorce proceedings. In relation to that, Sarah suddenly interrupted. Are you suspecting us? The officer maintained his composure as he replied, we need to consider all possibilities. That night, none of us could sleep. Feelings of guilt continued to torment me. I had only taken my eyes off him for a moment. The next day, the search expanded to a wider area. Volunteers joined in, and the town was flooded with Aiden's photos. Mark was moving around tirelessly, but I began to notice subtle changes in Sarah's attitude. Sarah, shall we search the southern area as well? When Mark suggested this, Sarah hesitated before answering. Yes, but I don't think Aiden could have gone that far. I felt uneasy about those words. Sarah's eyes seemed to reflect an emotion other than anxiety. On the third day of the search, there was a new report from the police. We found footage of a suspicious car on a security camera near the park. We're currently tracking that vehicle. This news gave us a glimmer of hope. However, Sarah's reaction was strange. For a moment, she seemed to turn pale. Sarah, are you okay? Mark asked worriedly. Yes, I'm just tired. I silently stared at Sarah. A thought began to grow in my mind that she might be hiding something. 5 years have passed since Aiden disappeared. Time has mercilessly moved on, seasons have changed, and our lives have slowly but surely transformed. Every year on Aiden's birthday, we gather as a family and offer a silent prayer around his photo. This year, he would have turned 13. As I gazed at the photo of his innocent smile on the table, I let out a deep sigh. Mom, would you like another cup of coffee? Mark called from the kitchen. Yes, please. Mark had immersed himself in work. Perhaps to distract himself from the grief, or to escape reality. The color of fatigue was always heavy under his eyes, and he rarely smiled anymore. "How are you doing lately, Mark?" I asked carefully. He shrugged. "Same as always. Just work, work, every day." I could sense a hint of resignation behind those words. Meanwhile, Sarah's behavior had been changing, slowly but surely. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, but I began to feel something off about her actions. One day, I noticed Sarah hurriedly trying to leave the house. "Sarah, are you going somewhere?" "Yes, just a quick errand," she answered vaguely and rushed out. These frequent outings had increased. When asked about her destination, she would give evasive answers. Her cell phone usage had also changed. She would go to a corner of the room to talk in a low voice, or suddenly end calls when we approached. Once, I witnessed her hastily hanging up when she saw the name displayed on the screen of her ringing phone. "Sarah, is something worrying you?" One day, I decided to ask her directly. "No, nothing at all," she answered with a forced smile, but her eyes weren't smiling. The most surprising incident happened one evening during dinner. "Hey, why don't we consider moving?" Sarah suddenly brought up. Mark looked at her with a surprised face. "Why so suddenly?" "I just thought it might be good for a change of pace." There seemed to be something behind this suggestion. This house is filled with memories of Aiden. It was hard to believe that Sarah would easily suggest abandoning that. One night, as I sat alone in the living room, I heard Sarah's footsteps coming down the stairs. She was wearing a coat and holding her keys. "Sarah, where are you going so late?" She flinched for a moment. "Oh, just a quick errand. I'll be right back." As I heard the door close, the doubts in my mind grew larger. What was Sarah hiding? And did it have anything to do with Aiden's disappearance? As Sarah's puzzling behavior continued, my days were filled with anxiety and suspicion. 5 years had passed since Aiden's disappearance, and while the light of hope was growing dim, deep in my heart, the belief that he was alive somewhere never faded. One quiet afternoon, I was in the living room using the computer to digitize old family photos. As I worked, immersed in nostalgic memories, suddenly an unfamiliar icon appeared on the screen. "What's this?" Puzzled, I clicked on it, and a video call screen opened. What appeared was the face of a boy with a frightened expression in a dimly lit room. "Aiden." My voice was trembling. The boy on the screen was undoubtedly my grandson who had disappeared from the park that day. After 5 years, traces of adulthood were beginning to show in his childish features. "Grandma." Aiden's voice echoed. "Help me. It's dark and scary here." I gasped. "Aiden, are you really? Where are you?" "I don't know." His voice was shaking. "But Mom is lying. She's the one who locked me up here." At those words, something froze inside me. Sarah had. "What do you mean?" "Sarah." Aiden looked around cautiously before continuing in a low voice. "Mom makes me do photo shoots. There are scary people here too. I'm not allowed to go outside. Suddenly, there was a sound of a door opening in the distance. The color drained from Aiden's face. Mom's back. Grandma, help me. But don't tell anyone. With that cry, Aiden hurriedly cut off the call. The screen went dark, and I sat there, dumbfounded. My head was in a whirl of confusion. Aiden was alive. However, his situation was beyond imagination. And the most shocking fact was that Sarah was involved. With trembling hands, I took out my cell phone to call Mark. But I hesitated for a moment. Aiden had said, "Don't tell anyone." But I couldn't leave things as they were. Taking a deep breath, I steeled my resolve. To save Aiden, I needed to act carefully but decisively. I had a gut feeling that this video message would be the turning point that would change everything. After receiving the shocking video message from Aiden, my heart was in turmoil. However, I knew I had to regain my composure. To save Aiden, we needed to act carefully. The next morning, I contacted John Brown, a longtime friend and retired police officer. I knew he would understand this difficult situation and give appropriate advice. "Carol, it's been a while. What's the matter?" John's voice on the phone mixed nostalgia with concern. Taking a deep breath, I told him about the recent developments in Aiden's video message. John listened silently, but I could hear his breathing become a bit ragged. "This is serious. We need to proceed with caution." John's voice became more serious. "First, we need to investigate Sarah's behavior in detail." Following John's advice, I began my own investigation. I started noting Sarah's outing patterns, her phone usage, and the places she had been frequently visiting recently. After a few days of observation, I discovered that Sarah was regularly heading to a warehouse district in the suburbs. So, one day, I decided to follow her. My heart raced as I watched Sarah's car stop in front of an old warehouse. After confirming that she had entered the building, I cautiously approached. Peeking through a window, I could see Sarah talking to someone. I couldn't see who she was talking to, but Sarah's expression wasn't that of the kind mother she usually portrayed. It was cold and calculating. This discovery turned my suspicions into certainty. There was a high possibility that Sarah was hiding Aiden. But why? And did Mark know about this? When I returned home, Mark had just come back from work. Seeing his tired expression, I hesitated, but felt the need to share the truth. "Mark, we need to talk," I carefully began. "What is it, Mom?" He looked at me with a bit of wariness. I told him about Aiden's video message and Sarah's suspicious behavior. I could see Mark's expression gradually changing. "No way. Sarah." Mark's voice mixed disbelief and confusion. "Mom, isn't this some kind of mistake?" "I wish it was," I answered quietly. "But considering Sarah's behavior lately..." Mark collapsed into a chair. "I can't believe it, but if it's true..." Seeing determination color his eyes, I felt a bit relieved. No matter how painful the truth might be, we needed the courage to face it. "Mark, let's get Aiden back together." I placed my hand on his shoulder. Mark slowly nodded. "Yes, we'll find him. And if Sarah really is involved." His words trailed off, but our resolve was set. To rescue Aiden and reveal the truth. That became our mission from that moment on. As Mark and I continued our joint investigation, shocking facts came to light one after another. With John's help, we dug into Sarah's past and discovered that she had been struggling with mental health issues for years. The stress from the divorce proceedings seemed to have triggered a rapid deterioration in her condition. Sarah had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, Mark said with a shaking voice. But she refused treatment. Analyzing Sarah's behavior patterns confirmed that she was regularly visiting the warehouse in the suburbs. So, we decided to carefully monitor that location. One day, right after Sarah left the warehouse, we got a chance to peek inside. What we saw left us speechless. The walls were covered with countless photos, all of Aiden. However, many of them were taken after Aiden's disappearance. "No way." Mark's face turned pale. Further investigation revealed that Sarah had staged Aiden's kidnapping and had been hiding him. Her diary contained entries detailing her desire for revenge against Mark and a distorted love for Aiden. "Only I can understand Aiden. Mark doesn't deserve to raise him." Such words were scrawled in messy handwriting. We also solved the mystery of how Aiden had managed to contact me. Sarah had given him a tablet for his education. However, escaping her surveillance, Aiden had managed to send me a message asking for help. He remembered me as the only adult he could trust, which is why he reached out to me. "Aiden, he was really alive all this time," Mark said, tears flowing. However, we had no time to dwell on our joy. Aiden was still under Sarah's control, and her mental state was unstable. We needed to rescue him as soon as possible. "We should report this to the police," John said with a stern expression. "But we need to proceed carefully. We don't know what Sarah might do." We nodded. Aiden's safety was the top priority. We prepared to submit all the evidence we had gathered to the police. "Aiden, we're coming soon," I whispered in my heart. "We'll definitely save you." After thorough discussions with the police, the day of the rescue operation arrived. Early in the morning, a police team including a special unit set out for the warehouse. Mark and I were to wait at a location a bit further away. "Mrs. Harrison, Mr. Harrison," the detective in charge called out to us. "Please wait here until we secure the area." As tension mounted, police vehicles approached the warehouse one after another. My heart was pounding fiercely. Suddenly, sirens blared, and police officers rushed into the warehouse all at once. "Police! Don't move!" Right after that voice, a scream echoed. It was Sarah's voice. "Let go! Aiden is my child." A few minutes later, officers emerged from the warehouse. And among them, "Aiden!" Mark cried out. Although he looked thin and his expression was filled with fear, it was undoubtedly our Aiden. He was being carried by an officer, and when he saw us, tears began to flow. Grandma. Dad. We ran over and embraced Aiden. After 5 years apart, we were at a loss for words. Behind us, we could see Sarah being taken away by the police. Her eyes were vacant, as if she didn't understand the reality of the situation. Sarah will undergo a psychiatric evaluation, the detective explained. Legal measures will be taken, considering her condition. Aiden was trembling in our arms. Can we go home now? Yes, everything's all right now, I answered gently. Let's go home. As the ambulance took Aiden to the hospital, Mark and I held his hand the whole time. It felt like we had finally seen light after passing through a long, dark tunnel. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but we vowed to overcome it together as a family. With that promise, we prepared to begin a new chapter. Several months have passed since Aiden's rescue. Following a psychiatric evaluation, Sarah was diagnosed with severe bipolar disorder and sentenced to treatment in a psychiatric hospital rather than prison. Her motive was revealed to be a combination of revenge against Mark and a distorted maternal love that led her to want to possess Aiden exclusively. The trial revealed that Sarah had been raising Aiden as a special child and selling his images on the internet. Aiden explained how he was able to contact me. Sarah had given him a tablet for online learning, but her monitoring wasn't perfect. Aiden remembered me as the only adult he could trust and sent the message when he found an opportunity. Aiden's road to recovery after returning home was challenging. He often woke up from nightmares and was afraid of contact with others. However, Carol and Mark patiently stood by Aiden's side. With the help of professional counseling, he gradually began to regain his daily life. One day, when Aiden showed a small smile, we felt hope. The family bond, though damaged, was surely being repaired. A long journey still lies ahead, but we will overcome it together. For Aiden's future. 1 year after Aiden's rescue, we were celebrating his 14th birthday. The table was set with a homemade cake, and colorful balloons decorated the room. Aiden's eyes, while still holding shadows of past fears, now shone with hope. Grandma, Dad, thank you, Aiden's voice mixed gratitude and strength. Sarah was under strict treatment, never to threaten us again. Aiden was bravely facing his trauma, attending counseling sessions and walking the path to recovery. And on this day, he announced a big decision to us. I want to start volunteering for the foster care system. I want to help kids like me. At those words, Mark and I couldn't help but tear up. Aiden, who had experienced such hardship, was now trying to use that experience to help others. It was proof that he had found true healing. Aiden, we're so proud of you, I hugged my grandson tightly. Our bond, having overcome adversity, had grown even stronger. This was the true victory. As I gazed at Aiden's smile, I thought from the bottom of my heart, our new life begins here.